I believe this could be one of the best mini expedition truck you can buy. So it's a fairly standard van size, but it's got these strong off-road capabilities. That's what makes it such a good overlanding vehicle. So yeah, this is my point. Tell me what four-wheel drive van is better than this for overlanding. Don't tell me it's the Sprinter, because the Sprinter is just much weaker than this one.
I am Ferenc. Follow us on our adventures as we share our overland trips from all around the world.
What you see behind me is essentially our home on wheels for about a year and a half. Right now we are doing the Pan American Highway, driving from Canada and then also into Alaska, but from there to Argentina in South America. We are planning to do it in about a year and a half. And the vehicle that we've chosen, we were looking for this for about 2 years before we found it. We were looking for this specific type. And if you don't know the brand, this is an Iveco TurboDaily 4x4. It's a 1998 model. It's got a 2.8 liter turbo diesel engine. The reason why we're looking for this so bad is because it's essentially the only four-wheel drive van that you can buy in the world that was purposely built for this kind of tough use. It can do as much, at least, as a Land Cruiser or a Land Rover Defender. It's got high ground clearance, it's got 2 diff-locks, it's got a low range gearbox, and literally it can go through anything. The engine, the 2.8 liter turbo diesel engine, is not actually very powerful. It's only 102 brake horsepower, but the gears are set up in a way that the lack of power is not such a big problem. Of course, it's a big problem on long uphills or on highways and motorways. So we can only travel slow, and actually the engine is quite loud. But the type of travel that we're doing, the style of travel that we're doing, we can actually see more. We travel slower and we see more. I wish it was faster and more quiet, but the whole concept of trying to find a good overland vehicle is a compromise. I think the size of this vehicle is actually perfect. It's got a very short wheelbase, it's got a very small size in length, it's got a standard width, probably wider than a Land Rover Defender or a Jeep Wrangler, but otherwise it's got a normal width. Because of the high ground clearance, because of the locking differentials, because of the low range gearbox, and because it's a body on frame structure, it's very tough, and it's an old mechanical model, which means there is no electronics. A bush mechanic or anywhere around the world, even if somebody who doesn't know the model, anybody can fix it if they got the right skills. These type of vehicles can be fixed easier than the ones where you need a whole bunch of laptops to figure out what the problem is and what the computer's problem is that makes your engine just go in limp mode. This doesn't have a limp mode. Well, or I can say it's constantly in limp mode because our actual travel speed is about 70-80 kilometers an hour, which is roughly about 45 miles an hour, maybe 50. But we can do that on a dirt track. We can do that anywhere. We can do that around here. It's not a problem. We don't aim to go on fast highways anyway. If you don't know the model or the brand, Iveco is a major truck maker in Europe. They were established by Fiat in the 70s. Then they started to make the Iveco Daily, which is the van behind me, in 78, an earlier version. This is the second generation. And within the second generation, this is the facelift model. So it's got the 2.8 liter engine and it's got the new grille in the front. And the dashboard is a little bit different, as well as the steering wheel, but otherwise these haven't changed much over time, at least not the first 2 generations. They are very similar. They were purposely built with a body on frame structure. A lot of people who are looking for 4x4 vans are going for the Sprinter, Mercedes Sprinter, and I'm sure it is a fantastic van and very popular among van lifers, and maybe finding parts for a Mercedes Sprinter is easier than for this one, although if you live in Europe you can actually find parts for this. But compared to the Mercedes Sprinter or Dodge Sprinter, or it depends on which market you're in, the Sprinter is a unibody. The four-wheel drive capabilities were bolted onto the Sprinter, whereas this was built with the purpose of already being a very tough off-roader. You can actually see parts of this vehicle that shows that this is a proper off-roader. It's got the headlight protector frames. It's got the air intake high up, so I didn't actually need to install a snorkel. I would love to, and I probably will at some point, but I don't think it's essential. It's very, very high up. You can see that the ground clearance is very high, and they usually come with off-road tires already. Now these tires were chosen by me, and they are the Open Country, the Toyo Open Country mud terrain tires, and they are really good, even on highways, even on tarmac, but in mud they are fantastic. Now we don't have the problem of having the mud tires too loud, because the truck is very slow and very loud, so we don't actually get to the point when the tires start to be too loud, because the truck already is too loud. So the daily model, the Iveco Daily model, was actually introduced in 1978, and they are still making it today, of course newer versions. They were also sold by Alfa Romeo and Fiat initially, and due to the fact that from 1986 Iveco was collaborating with Ford Trucks, there are some parts, if I'm correct, like the transfer case is compatible with a Ford F-150. Now I was told this, I haven't fact checked it yet, and I hope I don't need to, but I think there are components that are compatible with Ford trucks as well, but definitely Fiat. So these compare to the Fiat Ducato or Dodge Ram vans, but those are unibody constructions, whereas this is body on frame, much tougher, much better off-road. These tough little vans were used by the Italian military and also the Italian police. So a lot of them were decommissioned Italian military vehicles that are used by overlanders. I don't know the history of this one properly, only going back 2 owners to about 2010. They were converted by somebody who wanted to travel the world. Due to an accident, he had to sell it, and I bought it from the family who owned it after the builder of this truck. I'm very, very happy with it. It's very well thought out. It's maximizing the space inside, and at the same time the off-road capabilities are just fantastic. So let's go through the modifications of this van. Most parts are standard. However, the dampers were changed, so they are a little bit tougher. The ground clearance haven't changed, but just the suspension is a little bit harder, so it can take more weight, it can take more beating. So it's got the original fuel tank, which is about 70 liters, but also got an additional auxiliary fuel tank, which is another 120 liters. Our range is roughly about 1300, maybe 1400 kilometers, which is roughly, what is that, about 800 miles, which is fantastic, which is really great in driving the Pan American. You can even drive in Africa with that kind of range. You only need about 600 miles, maybe 700 miles range, and then you're fine in most parts of the world. Although this model exists in a high roof version, this wasn't originally a high roof model. So the roof was cut off and then an extension was added to the top, which actually resembles the original factory made high roof model as well. And then a custom made roof rack was then fabricated. The roof rack holds a couple of solar panels as well as the spare tire and the high lift jack base. And on the back it's got the high lift jack mounted. The gearbox is actually a 5-speed manual, but the first gear is so low range that we never actually use it. It just doesn't make sense to use it. So essentially we have 4 gears. We start in second, but in everyday life that's the first gear. I wish it had an additional gear, a 6th, because it would make our life easier on highways. We often hold up traffic. We often are too slow for the traffic flow. However, that's fine because we're driving on very small roads, we're driving off-road, and for that a low-range gearbox, I'm not talking about the low-range off-road gearbox, but the lower geared gearbox is actually great. Not good for highways, good for off-roading or tracks. I'm not happy with the too low mounted rear bumper because the departure angle actually is affected. Otherwise the off-road angles of this vehicle are fairly good, but the rear bumper is needed to protect the auxiliary fuel tank, so I cannot actually remove it or mount it a bit higher. We've got an ultra vision LED light on the front. It's extremely powerful, And if you've ever driven in open areas with no road signs or no markings on the road at all, especially if it's on a dirt track, these LED lights are essential. Your original lights are just not going to be strong enough on in these kind of conditions, so you do need those LED lights, off-road especially. I believe this could be one of the best mini expedition truck you can buy. The size, the small size, is actually good because you can go anywhere where a normal off-roader can go, like a Jeep Wrangler, a Land Cruiser, or a Land Rover Defender. I can actually go to nearly the same places. Depends on how low the branches are, or in a forest or something, but otherwise the width and the length is the same as a normal truck or a normal car. I can fit into a normal parking space. We can use the same trails. The height, which is 3 meters, is the only restrictive attribute of this little van. And I think because of that, because we have the space maximized inside, we have heating inside, we have a living compartment inside. So it's a fairly standard van size, but it's got these strong off-road capabilities. That's what makes it such a good overlanding vehicle. And I think it's very, very hard to beat. Let me know which one do you think is better than this, because I don't think there is many out there. Don't tell me it's the Sprinter, because the Sprinter is just much, much weaker than this one. The weak points are, of course, the spare parts availability. Maybe the fact that this is an old truck and not a new one, but I think that's an advantage if you're in not very developed parts or remote parts of the world. Then it's actually an advantage. It's actually lighter than 4 tons. It's fairly light. The engine is not strong enough for such a weight, but the gearbox compensates for the weak engine. But again, another advantage of the weak or relatively weak engine is the fuel consumption. The fuel consumption is about between 13 and 15 liters per 100 kilometers. And I've done some conversions down below in the description if you want to check them out. I will convert them into mileage and MPGs and whatever you're using. So yeah, this is my point. Tell me what 4-wheel drive van is better than this for overlanding. This got all the capabilities as the proper tough off-road cars have. At the same time, it's got the living compartment. We can cook inside, we can live inside, we can sit at a table inside and sleep inside, stand up inside, and be in the Sahara Desert. The smaller off-roaders, even the pop-up roof ones, have much smaller space inside and a lot more things that they compromise on, or different things that they compromise on. This is our choice, and this actually got all our preferences listed. Space inside, stand up inside, we can have shower inside, we can cook inside, but at the same time it gives us the possibility, it gives us the options to camp around it, to live outside if you're in warmer climates. Let me know if you disagree, please, in the comments below, but I think this is absolutely just perfect for what we're doing and for most overland trips. We've got our recovery gear from ARB, and I will go through it in details in another video, but essentially we have a couple of snatch straps with a tree saver and some shackles as well with it, and our winch, a shovel, a tread recovery board, and our snatch straps are basically our full package for recovering ourselves off-road. In addition, we have the ARB 12-volt compressor as well. If we decide to air down the tires for softer grounds, and an air compressor is just essential for pumping it back up. And as I said, I will go through all of our recovery gear in a separate video, just showing everything. Here you can see the water tank, and so it's mounted outside, which is a problem in colder weather. That's an issue, but it's part of the compromise that you want to maximize space inside, so the water tank had to go outside. Now in the driver's seat, it's fairly simple, made a little bit more complicated by our own customization for overlanding, of course. Very standard dashboard, no airbag because it's an old truck. What we've done here is equipped with a few things that will make our trips easier. So let's start with the basics. We installed 2 extra speakers for the music because the van is pretty loud when we are traveling. It's not that these speakers, because we have 4 around us, made the sound any better, but it definitely, we can hear it better with 4 of them, but the truck is pretty loud. So we just needed 4 speakers, so we added that. We have a gauge here, which is basically standard. It came with the truck. It's helping off-road, just showing how steep or crooked a trail is. We're using RAM mounts for our devices, for our phones, which use for navigation as well as obviously communication. We're also using RAM mounts for the iPad, and the iPad is actually connected to a device called the Bad Elf, and it's connected via Bluetooth. So we're using offline maps on the iPad, and the Bad Elf is actually showing the position, and through that we navigate with offline maps. Mainly maps me, but there are other applications that we're using. For example, the Garmin maps. Talking of Garmin, we have an InReach Mini for emergencies, and also we can send emergency text messages or emails, and I can actually grab this. This is also a RAM mount. I can just unplug it from the charger, and I grab this if we go hiking, just in case, but it slides out very easily, and at the same time it doesn't fall out even on rough roads. We have a GoPro mount here, which is the suction cup. That's so now, right now I'm using this clip and just wanted to clip it on here. We're not actually using it this way, but I'm charging it right now, but I'm actually mounting it in case we want to record something inwards or outwards. So this clip is actually fairly good for attaching it to different parts of the truck, and we can make pretty good footage with that. I have a flashlight here just to grab if we stop somewhere. If we stop somewhere, I want to look around. There's a flashlight right there. We're using a CB radio, which is mounted down here, and the speaker is just there. I can easily grab that. That's not a problem. But there wasn't actually any space to put it here. It would be better, but that's also fine there. We have a number of 12-volt sockets as well as USBs. That's obviously essential for charging everything around here. And this is actually not just a simple water bottle. We installed the bottle holders on both sides, the passenger side as well as the driver side. It didn't actually have one. We installed them, and the survivor filter water bottle fits in there perfectly. And the reason why this is very good is, first of all, it's got a filter which is not currently in there because it's clean water in here, but it's got a carbon filter that I can fill up anywhere in any river or any lake, and it actually creates drinking water just by filtering it physically with a carbon filter, But at the same time, when I'm driving, I can just grab it with one hand, open it, and then I can drink easily. So it's very, very handy. It's got this dust-proof cap, which is also very good. We're driving on dusty tracks or anything, and it's just a great device. It's just great for drinking water while we're going. The CB radio, we're using the CB radio mainly for shooting something or looking for a campsite. Maybe Evelyn or I need to walk in advance and then check out whether the track is leading somewhere that's accessible or not, maybe through a dense forest or muddy or flooded areas or something like that, and walking would be safer. Then we grab a handheld device, which obviously then communicates with the CB radio built in, and then we can just talk to each other. Somebody is basically scouting a campsite or a track, whether it's possible to reach or not. There are a few custom buttons around the driver's seat. The one on the left operates the fuel pump between the auxiliary fuel tank and the main fuel tank. It doesn't happen automatically, and the gauge on the dashboard is actually only showing the original fuel tank, so I need to actually keep in mind how much extra fuel do I have in the auxiliary fuel tank. The middle button is operating an extra fan, or it turns on the fan if we're going uphill or if it's too hot. I can actually provide more air for the engine to cool down. And the one on the right activates the winch. On the other side, I've got the LED light switch, so this is turning on the ultravision LED light. And the big red button is activating the front differential lock. This is of course the gear lever, and What's important here, and this is what most vans don't have, is this is the rear diff-lock. To activate the gear lift lock, I can actually put this lever in the back, and I've got locking differentials on the rear shaft. And this gear lever I can use to switch between two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive or four low. This is why the Iveco TurboDaily is much better than a Mercedes Sprinter 4x4. Above the driver's seat on the sun visor, there is this storage compartment attached with a Velcro. It's made by Nakatananga, which is essentially a Land Rover accessories maker, but of course this fits in here as well. I'm just keeping various bits. This is my Swiss knife, a pen. I've got little bits and pieces here. It's just very handy. At maybe border crossings, I can just quickly put my passport there and things like that. We've got a safety window breaker and seat belt cutter here, and just sunglasses holder there. And that's about it. That's the driver's seat. That's the front of the truck. But behind me there is this storage net here. It's got a first aid kit that's very easy to grab, very easy to access. And I've just got various clothing items in here that's mainly for cold. Like sometimes we travel through areas with like 4 seasons at a day, and I just got gloves and like a vest and, you know, just anything warm like a hat or a beanie in there, and just easy to grab. I don't need to look for it. I need to step out of the truck and I just grab it. It's there. Also behind the driver's seat we keep the Lifesaver jerry can, and essentially this makes any kind of water drinkable. We can fill this up in any lake or river, and it gives us at once obviously 18 liters of drinking water, and the filter can be used for 10,000 liters, so this will be good for a good year, I'm sure. Also got the fire extinguisher on this side as well, and my camera, my DSLR, is very close by if I need to grab it quickly, and just as I mentioned with the clothing items that I need if it's cold suddenly. In the door pocket I just keep a couple of rags, as well as some gloves for winching, and just another glove to, you know, check the oil level and anything that would make my hands dirty, and I don't want that to happen, so I've got a glove. I also keep the tool that engages the front shaft, essential for four-wheel driving, which works like this. So I can just turn it this way, and if I change the lever inside, it will make it four-wheel drive. I need to do this on both sides, of course. And usually I keep the winch remote here as well, but I don't have that right now. So let's go to the passenger side. Originally the truck comes with a driver's seat, of course, and then separately a bench for 2 people on the front on the passenger side. The previous owner changed that to a couple of good bucket seats. These are Volkswagen seats from, I believe, the Polo GTI. They hold fairly well, and their height is adjustable with these levers here. What makes it really comfortable when we stop and just makes the van a bit more spacious, we can just turn this seat around, just the passenger side. The driver's side doesn't turn around, so the passenger side is actually a swivel chair. Turns around, and we just got a lot more space like this. So now let's go and check out the living compartment, what makes this van basically a camper and what makes us able to live in there. We can get through to the living compartment through the front door or through the sliding door as well. And when we get in, on our left side is the kitchen unit, and essentially this is a 2-burner stove connected to a propane tank in the back. And of course we've got our faucet here. We've got a 70-liter water tank. It's not huge, but at the same time, as I mentioned, this is a compromise in every single part, and you just need to find your preferences. Now, our preference is to be light as much as possible, 70 liters of water plus our additional water tanks like the Lifesaver or our Jerry Flexes are enough for us for 2-3 days, even 4 days. And we shower every day or every second day. And if you go camping, that's a lot of showering. Usually people shower once a week, maybe. So this is the kitchen unit. So this is the water pump. It's building pressure in the water tank, and that's how the water comes up. We've got a drawer under the stove and the sink, and we've got most of our kitchen equipment in here. Under the drawer, we've got a 40-liter Iveco fridge and freezer. It's so comfortable. It's very, very comfortable to have a fridge on a trip like this. And there is a little storage compartment here as well for cleaning stuff, as well as more kitchen equipment. Behind the kitchen is the seating area, and this actually converts to a bed as well. And I'm just quickly gonna show you because it's very, very simple. I have to pull this lever here, this latch. The table comes down, and essentially I can just drag these cushions and it turns into a bed. All around the seats there are storage compartments for various things. We've got some camping equipment here. We're even carrying a tent with us because we're going to go hiking and we might need to use a tent. Our recovery gear is there, or some of it. So it's, as I said, just storage compartment all around. And we've got this main storage space here. On the right hand side we've got some camera gear and electronics, and on the bottom we've got some shoes as well as our shower unit. This is very, very useful. I will do a full review on that. It's made by Evershower. It is incredibly useful because it was designed and made for overlanders and van lifers. So this is the whole space that you can see here, and of course, as you can see, there is no bathroom in here. However, this Evershower unit makes us able to shower inside, and we can actually, so it's possible to set it up inside but also outside, and we are essentially able to shower. It comes with a pump and the shower head, and using the tent we can also set up our temporary camping toilet too, because we've got one as well. On the left side of this unit we've got some more kitchen equipment, but mainly food. So this is our dry food compartment essentially, and some more kitchen stuff. We've got canned food here, we got rice and oatmeal and pasta and things like that that doesn't need to be in the fridge. All around here I can actually stand up. I'm about 180, 178 meters. That's about 5'8" in feet. And top shelf we got some food, fresh vegetables and fruits, and just various bits around on the shelves. Cables organized. On a trip like this, what we're doing now is driving the Pan American Highway for about 1.5 years, and this is our home. This is our permanent home for this period. You need to be organized, and these shelves are organized really well. It's built really well. Above the seating area and the bed, we've got 2 huge compartments for our clothes. We needed to pack for 4 seasons, and these 2 compartments can actually accommodate both of our clothes for 4 seasons for 1.5 years. And as you can see, it's fairly large. There is also another compartment here which is above the driver's seat and the passenger seat, and these 2 bags contain our bedding, so pillows and duvets and sleeping bags and stuff. Just right next to the kitchen unit on this wall we've got our internet router. There's a slot in there to put the SIM card in, and in every country where we go in we buy a local SIM card, we add it to this router, and we have internet around the van. We can also plug in our laptops and any kind of camera gear that we want to charge in here. We've got a Victron converter, an 800 watt, which is right under there. It's right under one of the seats, and it's actually connected to the leisure battery, which is charged by the solar panels as well as the engine. And then this solar charger is the brain of the whole operation. And then once the solar charger, obviously through the solar panels, charges the battery then provides power for the inverter, and then the inverter provides us with 220 volts. Of course, we've got various lights around the living compartment, so it's very, very, very comfortable all around. And these are all LED, so they use relatively little power. Once we do our shopping, we try to go to local markets if possible in a country. We can be independent for about a week, provided that we can get some water on the way. So it's a very small space inside, but the fact that I can stand up, and of course Evelyn can stand up, it makes it very comfortable to live in. Even if the weather is bad and we cannot go outside, we cannot stay outside, like this space, the fact that we can stand up, it's actually fine. And of course, as I said, it's a compromise. The good off-road capabilities, short wheelbase, and in general just a small vehicle, I think it's maximizing the space very well. Our heating is provided by a propane heater that is actually blowing hot air through this vent, and the heater is actually in there. I don't think you can see it there, but it's under a lot of gear that we have there, but it's essentially, it's burning propane, and it's fairly effective. I can just turn this knob here and we have heating inside the van, which is very, very comfortable. As I mentioned, we have various camping gear in addition. We have chairs and a table as well. We've also got an additional portable stove, because this panel right here is basically a table for the outside, just a quick one to set up. We also have a separate proper table, camping table, and I will show you quickly how this is set up. I will just try to do it with one hand. Of course, it will be more comfortable with two hands, but let me try. So the unit just comes out like this. Very, very simple, and it slides in there, actually goes in there. There's a couple of sort of bolts that will hold it in that rail. So it goes in there, and then I can just hang up the corners using the other rails on the door, like so. And we have an external table. If we want to cook outside, which is often, the weather is nicer to sit outside and cook outside, we're just using this. Is very quick to set up. And as I said, we have a separate table as well. Now that I'm talking about the outside, we can actually use this table when it's raining or if it's too hot, because we've got the ARB awning, and it's a 250 by 250 meters. It's fairly large, and it's got the built-in LED lights. What we purchased in addition was some mosquito nets that will go under it, and we can sit outside even if the mozzies are out as well. On the roof there is the spare wheel. Unfortunately, I'm saying unfortunately because it's fairly heavy. We don't have any holders built at the back where it should be. The back is used for other stuff, such as, so we have a ladder here, and this is the intake for the heater. I take this off and fresh air can go in and heat it up by the heater. And on the left side we have our tread recovery boards, a shovel, and our trash bag. A lot of people are asking us what are we using this bag for. It's essentially we are taking our trash with us anywhere we go. Maybe we can pick up even more trash if we find some. Also storing our firewood, anything dirty like our fire pit. We have a fire pit or grill. We can use it for cooking or just generally just a campfire. We've got the high lift jack mounted on top. Again, it's another heavy item, but we just couldn't find a better place for it, so it's there. It's a fairly robust truck, so yeah, all this weight is up there. You can see the high lift jack base as well up there. The roof rack itself, as well as the high lift jack and also the spare tire, are fairly heavy, but this is a truck. It can hold it, it's still stable, and I would prefer them to be down below, but again, this is a compromise. You need space, you need living space, and you just need to find storage space for your stuff, and that's where it went. There are a couple of boxes, aluminum boxes on the front. We're keeping our spare parts in there, and also stuff like filters, oils, spare bearings, things like that. I have a whole list of what kind of spare parts we are taking with us on a 1.5-year trip with an Italian truck that's 23-year-old. Let's look under the bonnet. It's a 2.8 liter diesel engine. It's a very simple one. It's got a small turbo, it's a turbo diesel. So far very reliable. I need to actually add oil every now and then. I'm checking it on a daily basis. We've got our worn winch controller there. This is where I can plug in the remote control and then I can operate the winch. The winch is actually an XD9000 worn winch. So it's a 4-ton capacity or 9,000 pounds. It works really, really well. It had to be fixed by my dad, who's very good with fixing stuff actually. And we got a couple of shackles from ARB. And this is our 119 ampere hour leisure battery. In case our starter battery goes flat, I can use a switch that will make me able to start the truck's engine using the leisure battery. So it's very, very well designed. This lever here can be used to make hot water, and what it does, it directs water around the engine will heat it up, and we have very, very hot water inside. And there's a separate water tank for the hot water inside under the seats.